Now this is what I was going to show you guys. And this is the hidden, I have mixed feelings about this, but a lot of people like it. Again, excuse the music in the background. You gotta kick a little. That's some Little Texas. I like my country music sometimes. Anyway, if it's not country, then it's classic rock. What this allows you to do is pull all these cables that you've already connected back and then hide them in these hooks. There's just little hooks. The only problem with these hooks is if they break easy, for one thing. I don't think I have any hooks left on my ancient Antec Solo. Sorry, you guys had a good view of the back of the motherboard. So right now, I'm just pulling like these little motherboard headers, cables for the power reset and hard drive LEDs, or actually not the hard drive LED yet, remember that one's on the door. Now you can see, for the most part, the big cable mess that was there before isn't. And I'll even pull these some more once I get the power supply cables run. But it doesn't hurt nothing for them to be here. And what I'll probably end up doing is leaving a little slack here at the bottom and using a zip tie to tie them all together. This audio cable, front panel audio cable, try and get us some more light here. There we go. This front panel audio cable will probably tuck in pretty well. Let's see, will it tuck in there? It'll once the video card's in place, it'll tuck in pretty well right there and just lay along. So I'm not worried about it at all. So the next thing I'm going to do is put the power supply in. Why? You'll see. Well, I'll tell you. At first glance, you would think that, okay, the music's getting too loud, damn it. Just down a little bit. And a better song. Oh, there's Taylor Swift. Look at my messy room. It's all Rory's fault. I was in the middle of cleaning it up and he brought all this crap over. Anyway, at first glance you might think you might be able to fit in a power supply right there. Well, you can't. The only way to get the power supply in here, once you've got a heatsink and the CPU in, the only alternative you have is to knock out all these front face plates and try and wedge the power supply in there that way. The only real way to get the power supply in this case is to do it either before you've dropped the motherboard in, which is ideally what I should have done, but definitely before you've put the heatsink and the CPU and heatsink and fan. Because once you've done that, there's no getting the power supply in this case. So power supply is, here's our Antec 650 watt earth watts power supply. We'll see how well it's packed. Pretty well, pretty standard packing for a Antec. They use recycled cardboard, recycled paper made into cardboard. Doesn't look like any of the cables are sleeved, which is kind of a disappointment. But it is a mediocre priced power supply. There's our power cable. Man, I've got so many of these guys stacked up, you wouldn't believe. There's our 4 screws to secure the power supply, just in case your case didn't come with them. The next sound you hear is going to be me smashing my keyboard trying to get just the right volume level. Okay. So here's our... This is funny too. Antec has started using this paper sleeve, and the only purpose it has is to hold these this cardboard together while their technicians shove the power supplies in the box, which is pretty funny because I recently had to rebox one of these, and now I sympathize, because getting them back in the box in the same way they were in the box in the first place, it ain't so easy. So here we are with our Antec earth watts 650 watt power supply. Doesn't look like any of the cables are sleeved except for the main 24 pin power cable. I expected as much. That's usual fare for Antec. They just don't sleeve their cables. Every other power supply manufacturer does, but Antec just chooses not to. It saves money, and it saves us money as the consumer too. So I'm going to unbundle all these cables and open this power supply up. So here is our Antec EarthWatts 650 watt power supply. By all looks and looking through the fan internally, this looks to be a Seasonic build. It could be CWT, which is Channel Well Technologies, but either way, they're pretty good. Seasonic is the best quality-wise. CWT is pretty good. So either way, this power supply should last for quite a few years. Here we have this is our 12 volt bundle, which is all 12 volt connections. We have PCI Express, one 6-pin PCI Express, one 8-pin, an 8-pin, let's see, oh, they're even labeled, or one of them's labeled. Let's go through that again. We have, there's an 8-pin PCI Express. This is a 6-pin PCI Express with the extra 2 pins as a breakaway connector. This is not a PCI Express connector, I think. Oh, it is a PCI Express connector, excuse me. Just a regular 6-pin PCI Express. This here is a 4-pin. This is the 4-pin auxiliary power connector, also called an EPS 12 volt. This is what supplies power directly to the CPU on your motherboard. And then here we have another 8-pin. It looks like another EPS 12 volt connector. This is an 8-pin EPS 12 volt connector for those motherboards that have 8-pin. So, not too shabby. As a 650 watt power supply, I think it should have some more PCI Express connectors, but I don't know what these two holes. These two holes might be for voltage adjustment. That might be interesting. Have to look inside them and see with a flashlight. And then, of course, on this side, we have our mixture bundle. This here is the 24-pin main ATX power connector. This is a 20 plus 4-pin, which means that these extra 4 pins will break away if needed, so it can be used with an older motherboard that only has a 20-pin connector. And then we have our usual bundle of as a mixture of serial ATA connectors, power connectors, standard 4-pin Molex connectors, and there's probably a couple of floppy drive connectors in there too. Yep, I see one floppy drive connector in there, so that's expected. Just in case you need a floppy drive, there's your connector. So we're ready to put it in the case. So right now I am just mounting the power supply. Already got 2 screws in, now I'm just doing the 3rd and 4th one. So there we go, got all 3 screws in, just working on the 4th. And that one's in. Now, I have spaghetti to deal with. As you can see here. All these cables, the ones that have to be plugged in, and then everything else has to be hidden away somewhere. If it can't hide back there behind that side panel, then it has to be hidden up here somewhere, because we want to stop anything from blocking airflow.